Hey everybody, it's Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong, and I have the Dolly Journal. Let me tell you, this week has been it just flew by. I had to make time in my schedule this week for 2 different funerals, and I've lost, so both of these were family members. The first one was in Jason's family, and of course it feels like my family. We've been together almost 10 years. And then the other one was in my son-in-law's family. So I watched my grandson for about 5 hours while they attended a funeral, my daughter and son-in-law. But interspersed with that, one of my first cousins lost one of their first cousins on their dad's side. So like, she's my first cousin on my mother's side, as well as all of her siblings, but then on her father's side. And it's one of those things where growing up as a kid, occasionally we would have the opportunity to all be together, both sides of her family. So her first cousins on that side suddenly felt like my first cousins too, and it was really special. He was a very nice person. I also lost a very good childhood friend. We grew up across the street from each other, and he was a huge part of my life and my sister's life for several years growing up. And my sister and I lost another classmate this week. So there have been 5 deaths this week that I was somehow connected to. Anyway, I'm not making excuses for not being here, but my schedule with the 2 funerals has definitely been altered. There were 2 different days where I felt like I was off track from the start as far as my timing and being able to record. And then it just seems like the week just turned into, it felt like that every day. Anyway, let me show you the Dolly Journal. As you can tell, it is a lot thicker. I have been working in it. I have been working out the details of how this story is going to end. And between today, tomorrow, and actually Halloween Day, we will have Dolly completely caught up. Let's just flip through though. I know you've seen a lot of this in the front of the journal. I love the trims. We have these different notes in here, and I won't read those right now. We will go back to those at the end of the month. So Jay sent me some wonderful little like rubbery spiders. They're not hard plastic, but I put those on a string. You know, Dolly loves all sorts of bugs. She eats them, she keeps them in her pockets, and she has been known to terrorize other patients with them. So this string of spiders is just an absolute necessity in the journal. We've seen this page, and we've seen this page. I don't know if you saw this beautiful old witch card, and then I just decoupaged a napkin there. I think you might have seen that. I have added this. And I added this little note, the lane to Dolly's teenage home. Looks pretty deserted. And then here is an old trick-or-treat bag. We used to have fun greeting the children who came by for trick-or-treat until one year when Dolly answered the door, the child disappeared. So this is just stuck behind the postcard. I think we have already looked at the nurse's notes in here. We've read this note from Dr. Imelda. I added some notes to this page. Dolly was spotted in Ohio. She chased a man and scared him nearly to death. Dolly once held a party for Halloween. She became too violent with guests. I see that I need to add another O. So I tried to make it look scribbly, and like Dr. Imelda is just recording things. Here we have Dolly has an obsession with Poe. I believe that we've already read this letter, and we may go back and revisit these at the end of the month. We have this very lonesome looking tower here. Many times Dolly has been moved to the attic or other secure location when Dr. Imelda determined she was too dangerous. And this, of course, is a pocket that we can put things in. And then I've added, so here the story is going to start to unfold on these blank areas. I've added a lot of fabric trim, and I've also added some images and ephemera that I have had in my Halloween folder for a long time. You can see all the cracks in this. It was falling apart. So I glued this in. Now, I don't think this is meant to be anything horrible or horrific, but I've written here, Dolly says she has nightmares of being bound as a baby. And then I had to include my little October Gazette. And there's just a pretty flower there. I love the black and white. And I put paper tape on the other side of that. This old photograph, I don't know if you can see it. I found that in some ephemera and bought that a long time ago at the scrap exchange. And I've just written down here, Dolly's childhood home. You can barely see the house in that picture. Here's an old book page from an Edgar Allan Poe book. It's volume 7. And then this page I think is very creepy. We have this old window, or the corner of a building and the windows, and we have Dolly's room here. So she's definitely not on the ground floor. And then this long hallway doesn't necessarily look like any of the asylums that I saw, except it looks like this huge expanse where patients can come out and walk, and they can be rolled around in their wheelchairs. And then there were doors on either side of these long hallways. So this is just stapled in. I don't even know where I got that. Dolly has been in many institutions. She needs stability. Here we have an image of a clown. I do not like clowns. I'm one of the not a fan of clowns. So I changed its mouth to look kind of sad and scratched its eyes out. There is some red ink under there. I did wonder what it would look like if we added a little more. Pretty good. And I sewed some netting over that page. I just didn't want the outright black and white image of the clown. I continued to use trim, even if it felt fun and not scary. On the pages, I love that. There's another place to write. These are some really fun Halloween stamps that they were on a package sent to me by my friend Sandra in 2021, I think. I think that's right. And there, of course, is the folder X-rays enclosed, do not bend. And that, of course, goes all the way back over here to this. I grunged that up. And then this, so I had this little bag that we distressed probably last week. And I put a whole set. So I bought some postcards that went out in Patreon mail for September. Looks like October mail, but I mailed it in September so that it would be in preparation for October. I wanted to keep an entire set together so that I could see what it looked like. And they all have Edgar Allan Poe quotations. And I thought this journal would be a great place to keep this. And there's some more really fun trim. Love the polka dots. And then this was an image from the cover of I think a Saturday Evening Post, or wait, is that what they're called? Saturday Evening Post. It's not Sunday, I can't remember. I just looked at it not long ago, and it was the early, I think it was the 1920s. And then here, so the actual painting here is called The Execution of Madame Roland. I've also had this paper in my ephemera for a long time. That image is just chilling. You know, there she is being bound. She was captured, I believe it was in the 1700s, and executed not long afterwards. You really couldn't, it was very scary to stand against a powerful party, or to even get the reputation of being against a powerful party back in those days, in countries where there was a lot of revolution or fighting. And then I just thought these feathers seemed like they would go with this journal. These are guinea feathers, large guinea feathers from my mother's yard. And I put them in this little pocket. The pocket was already made. I found that in some fabric and bought it. I've noticed since watching some different ASMR channels that some people use different feathers, especially large feathers, for cleansing rituals and, what do you call it? I can't remember what it's called. I'll try to think of it and put it in here. And this is a Goya illustration. Carolyn, I think you sent me the book of Goya illustrations. But this is called Third Vision Seen in the Same Night. And it does look a little bit scary. I can imagine Dolly having nightmares or giving other people nightmares as she wanders through the halls unattended. This is going to be more space to write the story out. And then I had these. So these were clippings from a photography magazine. And that's really from an old, very old movie or something where the negatives were hand colored. I think that's right. But I wrote over here, other patients continued to hear noise in Dolly's room after she escaped. Experts detected paranormal activity. And then we have another silhouette of just a scary looking building. The skeleton with all the different bones marked. And then in here we have a card. It's one of those old history cards about, this one's about Edgar Allan Poe. And I distressed it a little bit. The bright yellow doesn't seem to go, but that's fine. And then, so this is also another old image that I've had in my ephemera. It looks like it was attached to something. You can see the marks where it left like glue marks. It looks like it was in one of those old photo albums from the 80s where the paper pulled back and the picture stuck to, which that ended up ruining a lot of pictures for people. But this, I believe, is like when the angel of death comes and time is up and you really have no choice but to leave. I can't remember the name of this. I'm going to try to look it up so that I have the name of it in here. And then I need to add a note to this. This is another old piece of ephemera. I bought a book at one point that had been water damaged and a lot of the pages were stuck together. But when I flipped through it, I did see some things I thought I could use. And two of the pages that were stuck together, when I pulled them apart, it pulled apart perfectly to leave the skull with just a little bit of text stuck to it. Hard to say that together. So I do want to add a little bit. I may grunge this up around here. And then these two things, I think this is just a, I don't know if it's a tarot card or it says spiritual guidance. I don't really do tarot. This was in my ephemera though. I decided to stick it in. And I believe I made this little booklet, Bills of Mortality, with different images from last year's Halloween journal. Was it last year that we looked at Morgan Le Fay? It seems like last year, but it could have been the year before. Honestly, the years go by so fast. They really do. Let's put this in front so I can see it. And then, of course, we have Dr. Imelda. I need to date this journal. I've noticed that some of my journals, I'm not necessarily dating the journal when it's for something like this. I put the days, but not the date. At least I sort of felt that way when I looked through some of my Halloween journals. But this is where we are right now. And some of the story, we've talked about all these different places. Dolly was born in Salem, and she was taken from a very suspect situation with potential abuse and other supernatural things that were going on. And she was adopted, she and her twin, they were adopted to a nice family in Wisconsin, but then strange things started to happen. And the twins ended up separated, and Dolly she was institutionalized, first in Wisconsin, and then she ended up in the Athens Asylum in Ohio. And she was probably several or many places in between. And Dr. Imelda latched onto her pretty early in her young adult life and has followed her everywhere as her sole physician. And then we have Nurse X, who has also been on the scene for a while. She was the only one who could handle Dolly. So where we stand now, of course, is that Dr. Imelda was out of town seeing patients and got the news that Dolly had escaped. So she rushes home to her large house in Ohio, and she's terrified because she knows Dolly. And she thinks Dolly could even be in her house. And she's afraid to be in her house, wondering if Dolly could be there with her. She does leave. She sets off on a journey. And, of course, she's one step behind Dolly as news starts to emerge that Dolly has terrorized people from place to place, and it is believed that Dolly is going back not only to Wisconsin, but to Salem. And we will find out what happens over the next 2 days. So that's where we stand, and thank you so much for being patient. I know I haven't posted a lot this week. I've been working on a lot of journals, and you will see those soon. I've also started a new round of fun packs. All of that has just made this week kind of crazy, plus the funerals. Death is a very real thing, and it behooves us to pay attention to our loved ones while we have them. So I will be back soon. Thank you for watching. At this time, I would like to thank my Patreon supporters. Without your help, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing, which is have a channel, create content, make journals, and do art full-time. Thank you so much for supporting me like you do. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate always your feedback and suggestions. Okay, bye for now.